has a happy ever after. And after this story, there's an after party.
My music a little bit.
You did?
Yeah, just so that it actually has words over top of it and it's not just awkward music.
Do. This is a show about show.
Insert product here. Along with anything else.
Brought to you by Daily Harvest and CBD oil.
Anyway, welcome to the first official Once Upon a Time Happy Ever After party. I'm Sam Logston, and finally, I am here with the infamous Amanda Turiski.
Amanda Pierce now.
Oh, fuck
I'm married.
me.
The reason
You
we haven't
are.
recorded
Is because you went from Turiski to Pierce.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's taken me a couple months to legally change my name, and I've just been standing in lines for about 5 months.
I'm so glad to finally meet the real you.
I know. I'm coming out.
Bow, bow. I want the will to know. So, me and Amanda have been friends for the better part of 13
300 years.
Like 1,000 years.
Yeah.
It's fine. We went to high school together. We were nerds back then. We're
We
still
met in a
nerds
locker
now.
room.
You can thank me for not mentioning that in my maid of honor speech, but you have no idea
We
how.
met in a locker room. Now the world knows.
We met in a locker room and we bonded over SpongeBob.
We absolutely did.
Mm-hmm. So, person, for those at home, can you talk a little bit about what you do for work and the kind of things you've sort of become a little bit more critical about when it comes to writing?
So what I do for a living is complicated day to day. But what I like to do about my job is I freelance edit different manuscripts, novels, and such for a publishing company. I went to school for English. I have a big passion for literature and different things like that. And yeah, that's pretty much my life. Mm-hmm. I just sit and edit all day, mostly.
And I think it's fair to say with both of our jobs, since you have to edit so many shitty books, and I have to narrate so many shitty books, I kind of notice really lazy writing a little bit more.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
With movies and TV as a result of it. So I can become like a little bit hypercritical whenever I see bad writing on my days off.
Yeah.
That's what pisses me off about it.
It's pretty much ruined casual reading for me unless it's really good. Like, there are a couple books I've read recently that are actually, like, not distracting to me. This is really evident in the style of writing and how different literary functions work. But that's also in part thanks to my degree that I have to be analytical now. It's not really an option to just, like, read a crappy book and enjoy it unless I'm getting paid.
Yeah, and, like, the thing with Once Upon a Time is, I've mentioned this before, but the producers of this show and the directors and writers also worked on Lost.
I saw that. That's crazy to me after watching the first couple episodes here. I'm like, I never really watched Lost. My parents watched Lost. But it was when I was still at home, so I got kind of secondhand Lost
That's how
knowledge.
I experienced Lost. But it was with my orthodontist office. Like, the techs would just not stop talking about Lost while it was on TV, so I feel like every time I came in, it was like a recap of what was going on.
My husband watched Lost, and he watched a couple episodes of this with me, and he just keeps on going, oh, that's so-and-so from Lost. Oh, that's so-and-so from Lost. And I'm like, okay, I know him from something else, but okay.
I haven't watched the TV series Birds of Prey, although I do have access to it. So I'm kind of curious to see who all wound up in that show too.
Is it the same people?
Same people. Are you talking about Once Upon a Time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a short TV show of Birds of Prey.
Okay, yeah, I remember
it was
that.
It was not long lived.
It was not very good.
Yeah, so which sucks because Birds of Prey, I'm not a big comic book person, but Birds of Prey to me was really cool because it prominently featured Oracle if you know who that is.
Yeah, I know Oracle.
Yeah, I love Oracle. Oh, and by the way, guess who's not being in the new Birds of Prey movie? Oracle.
Spider-Man. Damn
Well,
it.
thank fuck. Okay, so there's no point dragging it out. We actually have to talk about Once Upon a Time. I'm sorry. Really sorry. Just okay. Let's do baby steps.
If you want my review of the first couple episodes I watched, it's pretty much. But the difference with Once Upon a Time, and I kept on calling it Happily Ever After, which is not that.
No, it's not.
But the problem, or my thing with Once Upon a Time is while I don't like and have trouble enjoying crappy literature and books and whatever, we have and always have had a deep appreciation and love for crappy visual media.
Yeah, we've had this discussion many times. It's different.
Yeah, it's much easier to enjoy a bad movie or even a bad TV show than it is to enjoy a bad book, because there's so many more elements that go into a bad TV show or movie. There's the acting, the directing, the editing, the special effects.
They do the work for you.
Yeah.
When you're reading a crappy book, everything that's put in your head is your brain's fault.
Yeah.
All the author did was provide text.
Yeah, and there's a lot more to
yeah.
break down with bad, like, visual media like that. So, while I don't appreciate bad literature very much, I love junk TV. If you talk to Dennis, my husband, he will tell you that I have a problem with both 90 Day Fiancé and Love After Lockup. They are my two guilty pleasure shows. I will watch them until all of the cows come home.
And I've always loved bad movies. I got this from my mother. One of the first films I remember seeing was a movie called Black Monday, originally called Mask of the Devil. It was in a 50s Italian giallo film.
Okay. I've never seen it, but I know giallo.
Yeah, this Barbara Steele was in it.
Okay.
If you know who Barbara Steele is, eyeliner for days. She gets thrown into an Iron Maiden and still is a very good holes in face effect. Mm-hmm. It's a lot scarier and intentionally so than like Sleepy Hollow.
Okay.
Things in the face. So watching Once Upon a Time with like our kind of love of shitty film in mind.
We grew up watching Santa Claus Conquers the Martians every Christmas. Like, that was the kind
without
of house without
the robots.
No, without the robots.
We watched, even better, my mom loves Santa Claus, the motion picture.
Oh, God.
With Merlin.
Okay. Yeah.
But Once Upon a Time is a little bit different because it's owned by Disney.
Mm-hmm. Everything is.
Everything's owned by Disney, but this was owned by Disney before everything was owned by Disney.
Before it was cool.
Because
it's ABC,
It's
right?
ABC.
Yeah.
And ABC got bought out in the early 90s. They started producing a lot more TV shows for ABC in like the late 80s, but then come the turn of the decade, they actually bought it out.
Because I remember all of those like TGIF or whatever, where Roseanne would go to Disney and Full House would go to Disney, and it was like a big thing for a little bit there. All the different shows would go to Disney and talk about how great it is.
Yeah, like during that merger, I think it was like for a span of like 4 years, there was a bunch of TV shows that did that.
Step by Step goes to Disney.
Fuck that show. I honestly, you know what? I will say that I would rather watch Once Upon a Time than any episode of Step by Step.
Oh, I hate sitcoms, so yes.
I do too.
That makes me sound so bougie, but like I legitimately hate sitcoms, especially laugh track sitcoms. Some modern day ones are fine, like Goldbergs.
Okay.
I stan. Is that a thing?
Yeah, I stan is still a thing. I
stand
standing.
I'm just trying to make sure I don't ruin everything by aging myself.
If there's any like younger audience members involved that are judging our lingo, life's too short for that shit. Do what you want, man.
Spoiler alert, we're both staring down 30 kind of hard.
Yeah. And speaking of spoiler alerts, we're gonna crack into the first episode.
Let's do it.
So, an abridged version of what happens. Emma Swan, a bail bonds person, as she rightfully has to correct somebody, suddenly gets visited by her son, who she left for adoption 10 years ago. He insists on her coming with him to Storybrooke, Maine, in order to meet his mother. And we, the audience, become aware, very subtly, that everybody in Storybrooke is a fairy tale character that has teleported. How subtle is the notion that everybody in Storybrooke is a fairy tale character? An opening text crawl?
It's not very, I mean, it's not subtle at all. But one of my favorite parts of this whole thing is Regina, who's the queen.
Yes.
I know, spoiler alert with the name, but, she's like, I'm going to send you all somewhere horrible, somewhere where there are no happy endings. And I just go, Maine?
Maine.
My sister lives there. She says it's really nice. I mean, I don't think Maine is that terrible. I'm going there this summer, actually.
Unless you live in Derry or Cabot Cove.
We should record when I'm in Maine.
You should.
And see
yes.
if I can find Storybrooke. We'll have like an on-the-road episode. That'll be fun.
I would love that. We should try to find, I think I've mentioned this before, but most of Once Upon a Time was shot in Vancouver.
Everything's shot in Canada. It's cheaper.
It is. So if anything, we should really do a Sam and Amanda go to Vancouver road trip.
Her name is Alberta. She lives in Vancouver.
Victoria, honey. So anyway, Lanna Parilla is one reason to watch Once Upon a Time.
Regina?
Yes, Regina. Lanna Parilla is great because even though she has such soccer mom energy, it's like...
She has, like, pissed off soccer mom, I need to talk to the manager energy.
Yes, all the time.
Like, that's what she brings. And what I love about this first episode is she's not wrong in, like, any of it.
No.
Like...
If you take away the flashbacks, if you actually eliminated all the flashbacks and you left things like subtlety and audiences reading between the lines and making your audience like a little bit smarter by not exposition dumping or fucking flashbacks.
This first episode has an issue, and I kind of dislike it, at least for now, with adoption.
I'm going to put a pin in that.
Okay.
Because I kind of want to just like get through...
I'm going to pin it on the wall.
Yeah, pin it on the wall. And we will...
Foley work. This is production values for days. No, just leave your little cheap ass...
No, I'm leaving that the fuck alone. It's just when we do that little bit, I'm gonna like reverb it because I can. So we will get to that, but the whole first episode, I think, makes very good use of the flashbacks. I only talk about them exasperated because the flashbacks do not stop after season 1, and there's 7 seasons of this.
I didn't know there were 7 seasons of this.
Yes, there are 7 seasons of this, and, you know, this first episode was great because, you know, we have the flashbacks, we see Regina being Regina, we're whisked away from Boston to...
with a place where there are no happy endings.
Well, just Regina's. We see that Emma Swan's son has been adopted by Regina, who is the mayor of Storybrooke, and also the evil queen. We realize that there is this huge, big-ass clock in the town, and the little kid is insisting that time is frozen here.
The MacGuffin clock.
The MacGuffin clock. And upon realizing that Emma was supposed to be here in order to break the curse of Storybrooke and... you know, trying to get things back to normal, whatever that ends up meaning. Because we know that there's a curse.
Yeah.
And we know that the curse is breakable.
Yeah.
But we don't know the repercussions of breaking the curse. Okay? All we know is that at the end of the first episode, the clock starts working again.
It ticks 1 minute forward ominously.
Fucking progress.
But you missed out the part where he calls his therapist Jiminy Cricket.
Uh-huh.
And I don't care about that scene, nor that character very much, except for the fact that he is an adorable Dalmatian dog, and I just out loud went, "Aww."
So yeah, he comes back.
Sweet. That dog is my favorite.
Yeah.
No, that dog is not my favorite character.
No, we know who our
my
favorite
favorite character
The
is.
second reason to watch Once Upon a Time, besides Lanna Parilla.
Daddy Carlisle. Robert
Robbie.
Carlisle, and I was telling Dennis this earlier, is up there with me with, like, Nick Cage and Tim Curry, in that regardless of what they're in is good or bad, they are always so watchable. They all have so much charisma in their little finger that they will always be watchable, and Robert Carlisle is a freaking gem. Like, he's just a great actor, and he's, like, always very committed to whatever he does and whatever role he plays.
And that's actually why I stopped watching Once Upon a Time, is because he does something. And we'll get there.
Okay.
He does something to indicate that him, as an actor, is broken.
No,
They break
don't
Robert
break
Carlisle.
him.
And here's the thing, it literally is like a millisecond worth of acting on screen. But it's enough that made me be like, okay, I had to stop watching this. So I'm actually going to try to power through this shit. It takes a long time. You're not going to see it anytime soon.
Ugh.
So, yeah, we get indications that people could be fairy tale characters. Now, having the flashbacks are fine. Having little, like, tongue-in-cheek, like, nods, like, in later episodes, like with Cinderella.
Yeah.
You know, and we'll get to that eventually. Or, I don't know if you got far enough in this, but did you happen to catch who Granny's
oh, yeah, her
granddaughter.
Yeah.
Did you happen to catch her name?
Ruby?
Yep.
Yeah.
You caught that.
Well, I watch
little things like that.
I watch everything with the subtitles on.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it'll say, like, their name.
It'll say their name.
You know,
Okay.
or they'll say the other person's name. So,
Yeah.
Ruby.
Ruby. So, like, again,
She's hot.
she is very hot.
Yeah.
Did you get to any of their flashbacks yet?
No.
Okay. Because, holy shit, there's not many episodes that I really like in this show because it's kind of hot garbage. But that one's amazing. And that's
Okay.
all I will say.
I'm on episode 9 right now. I guess, spoiler. I'm not going to talk about the later episodes at all. But there is one episode that I've really enjoyed so far. And I'm not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
I'll talk about it when we get there because I actually want to rewatch it.
It's funny because this show will continue sucking, but then, like, once every, like, 5 episodes or so, there will be a really good episode. And it'll keep you invested. And then it's like heroin.
It's like the writer got hit over the back of the head and it's like, oh, a good idea.
Yeah.
As opposed to all of the bad ones that seem to go into this.
Yeah. So...
but yeah, that's pretty much the first episode. He finds Emma and takes her to Storybrooke, and she... hot doctor just wants to go back to Boston, and then she's like, oh no, I need to do what's best for my bio son and stay here, she says, for a week. She's gonna stay.
Now, before we get into that, again, flashbacks to the actual fairy tale land, I'm okay with. The audience being in the know about everybody, I am okay with. What I can't stand is right before Jiminy Cricket comes on the scene, when the little kid is explaining the plot of the entire series to Emma, like, there's a curse, and I had to bring you here to break it, and everyone's a fairy tale character, but they don't remember it. And she's like, and you expect me to believe that? Like, dude, you've left nothing for the audience.
I feel like you have to explain the plot, otherwise the kid, I mean, I have other issues with the kid, but otherwise you just think this kid is going to be crazy. And so I'm fine with the flashbacks. I'm fine with exposition dumping on Emma. But
there could have been a much better way to do that, though. It was bad.
But it's TV.
Okay. Like, if I really had to be nitpicky, like, and again, like, we love bad TV.
Yeah.
If we had to, do that, we can get into, like, how there's no blood in any of the births.
I would just rather them exposition dump in one episode than stretch this out over 4 episodes. Which is, come on, he exposition dumped her in the first episode, so we don't need to keep on going. Everyone's a fairy tale creature. Everyone's a fairy tale creature.
Yeah.
Like, we get this kid is both an asshole and crazy. You don't need to keep on telling us that, in my opinion. I hate this kid. Like,
He doesn't get any better.
I hate this kid.
Yeah.
I don't want to be hard on the actor, because I don't like being mean to child actors. It's more often than not their fault.
It's his character.
It's the direction and the writing.
Yes.
And I'm sure the kid's a fine actor, but this character that they have created is awful. Like, he's a bad kid. Like,
How many times has he ran away from Regina?
oh my god, I gotta hold on to it for a minute, because I think it's in episode 2, where she's like, I'm your mother, and he's like, you're not my mom, bitch, kid. This woman, and it happens a lot in this episode too, that
Yeah.
it's back to my earlier pin in it about adoption.
This is the
This-
wait, hold on, wait. You can take
She
it out.
unpinned it. This show and its feeling about adoption is vile.
It's awful.
Because Emma comes in and she's the kid's bio mother who had him 10 years ago and then put him up for adoption. He then got adopted by the evil queen.
Because it wasn't really good from the get-go.
Yeah, because Regina's like, you gave him up. He's my son. He's not your son. You decided to put him up for adoption. You decided you wanted to seal the documents. This is all from episode 1. That you gave him up for adoption and sealed the documents. He is my son. She even has a part in this where she's like, I changed every diaper. I soothed every fever. I took care of him. And I'm like, where is Regina wrong in this?
She's not.
She's absolutely right in this. That Emma can't just come in after 10 years and be like, I want what's best for my son.
Yeah.
Because you don't know him. You don't know your own son.
No, and, like, the first time that I tried watching this show, I couldn't because I couldn't get over it. And, like, now, I'm at a different stage in my life where I have a stepkid. And this kid did not come into my life until they were late in their teens. So I know what it's sort of like to kind of come in late to a kid's life and be respected as an adult, but I have a very good relationship with her mom.
Yeah.
You know? And trying to come at it the way that Emma does in this series is jaw-dropping.
Yeah, like, you wouldn't go to your stepchild's bio mother who raised her and such and be like, no, I'm her mother.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
even if the
fucking
roles
dumb.
were reversed and
Yeah.
you were the bio mother, like, you can't go to someone who's gone through the process of raising a child and be like, no, your experience and what you've done is invalid. I know what's best. Like, that, it made me really dislike Emma very early on in the show, and that has not lessened.
Yeah. And I'll talk about this a little bit more when we talk about episode 2. It's kind of ironic how there's a lot of fairy tale tropes that get talked about and turned on their heads, like damsels in distress and men not really having any characteristics in fairy tales outside of needing to save female.
But the evil stepmother is
the
the
evil
one like,
stepmother.
oh no, we're standing by this one.
Yes, that one gets stood by and repeated so often. And most people don't realize this, but if I'm going to get into my little bit of geekery here, you know, this is just the introduction episode. I'm not going to pull out the big guns until later. But most stepmother and evil stepmother inclusions in fairy tales were not included in Grimm's original fairy tales until revisions about 30 to 40 years later after they were written.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you even think about it, like, we're coming up on the turn of the century kind of stuff. You know, the 1900s are not upon us. But, you know, there's definitely reforms, there's definitely inventions, there's definitely talk about changes all over the world. And sort of like a certain time period that we may or may not exist in, when change is approaching, traditionalism likes to rear its ugly head in.
Okay.
So, really reinforcing gender norms and marriage norms becomes a really big thing in the revision of a lot of stories. So, having a good biological mother that gets taken away from the kid too soon, and the inclusion of a wicked stepmother who did not ever give birth to children and was not married previously and did not fulfill her wifely duties, they get vilified. And that is another layer to Regina's character that throughout the series, not just in this particular instance, but throughout the whole Once Upon a Time canon, that pisses me off. Mm-hmm. Now, you haven't come up to it yet, or at least I don't think you have. But there's something that happens in this first season that they toy around with to really solidify Regina being an evil queen. Okay. When that episode happens, I'm going to ask the audience to kindly stick a pin in that. Hasn't happened yet. But
I mean, it's episode 1. Not much has happened
yet.
Not
much has happened yet, but there's, just to give you guys something to look forward to, there are many instances of toying around with how we, the audience, should feel about Regina. I've said this before. Whenever Once Upon a Time goes into a rut, it's really easy to tell because they either introduce a new character, they cut to a flashback when really they don't need to, or they debate the morality of Regina. Okay.
Yeah, she's, at least so far, the most interesting character morality-wise, because they keep on hinting at, like, in this first episode, she's right in, like, the real world. Yes. In the evil world, she's just, I believe, I don't even know if she references, like, Snow White's her mortal enemy in the first episode. I don't really remember.
In the first episode, all we know is that Snow White ruined her life. Yeah. She says as much in the first 3 episodes. Okay. Repeatedly. Yeah. Just like how everyone in storybook's a fairy tale character, because the audience will forget.
Yeah. Oh, and we forgot to mention Coma Guy was the other thing. We see Coma Guy at the end of this episode.
John Doe Comatose.
Yeah. The kid's teacher, he thinks is Snow White. Do you want to talk about her later?
Yeah, we'll talk about her later, because her and Comatose Daddy...
Comatose.
Comatose.
Delicious comatose. Comatose with Nutella.
When you need to go to sleep.
But to your earlier point about fairy tales and how they evolve, that's one of the reasons I really was interested in doing this podcast, is because fairy tales have longevity. Whether, like, regardless of what's your favorite or not, or how you feel about them personally, a lot of them have been around since the 1500s, 1400s, earlier, if you want to count, like, a Beowulf. And
most of it's, like, originated. You're talking, when you say fairy tales, are you talking about, like, the oral tradition, or are you talking about actually written?
All of them. Yeah. Because they have all changed from the roots to what they become. And as we go along with this show, we're going to be looking at other adaptations of it. So it's really interesting to me how one of my favorite movies that regard fairy tales, Ever After, moves Cinderella into the 90s and then instills 90s post-feminist values and outlook into it. And Once Upon a Time is from the 2011, I believe. So it's going to be interesting to see how they take the 2011 viewpoint and adapt the fairy tales to that. Once again, post-feminism, post a lot of social movements.
And in the wake of Game of Thrones popularity, too.
When did Game of Thrones come out?
Game of Thrones came out 2012.
Okay. So it's going to change in the next couple seasons here.
Yes. And it did that to TV in general.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about
what was
postmodernism...
in 2011? I was in college. I don't remember.
So reality TV was kind of coming to an end, but you still kind of got, like, a lot of the Real Housewives that were popular. in the
The
2010s.
Kardashians.
Yeah, so that's why Lanna Parilla, I think, was casted the way she was.
Okay.
Because she kind of represents, like, a Kardashian-ish
She
kind
has
of
the
vibe.
haircut. She has
Yes.
the power suits.
She wants to speak to your manager.
She has the black eyeliner. Like, she does want to speak to your manager and fire them.
I'm pretty sure I'm fired right now just talking about Lanna Parilla. Lanna Parilla is firing me.
Yeah, so I graduated high school in 2009.
And I'm 10.
And she's 10, so not 10 years old. You graduated in 2010. Yeah.
What?
So, guys, listen.
I think the
I'm having
CBD and coffee is really getting to you.
There's no coffee. It's just chocolate, peppermint, and CBD oil. And I've
Oh.
never had CBD oil, so this is going to be just loose and cool all the way down.
Oh my gosh. Just like my colonoscopy.
So good. It looks like your colonoscopy, too. It's like this dark brown. It's kind of gross.
Well, like a fluorescent red, really.
I
speckles.
feel minty fresh and chill.
Good.
What was I talking about?
Well, Lanna Parilla is definitely firing us after that rant.
Oh, God.
But no, I love how strong storytelling is. I love the oral tradition of storytelling. I love kind of reading the transitions throughout the years of it too, the fluidity. I really like when people do something different. It might not be good, but the fact that you're trying to do something different, and like I said at the beginning of this, there are episodes of Once Upon a Time that do really cool twists with characters, and I do love it. And good lord, Robert Carlyle is one of my favorites.
He's a gem. I just adore. Every time he's on screen, I shout out Daddy Carlyle, and it kind of pisses off my husband a little bit.
We'll make sure to do that whenever we're around him.
Daddy Carlyle!
So do we have any closing thoughts about episode 1? And more importantly, are we ranking this?
I say we rank it. Do you want a scale of 4 or 5? Because that way, if we do 4, we have to come down on one end or the other, whether we like it or not. Because I would ride the middle on a 3 if we were doing a scale of 5. But
I kind of like doing a scale of 5, just because if we do a 3, that actually is
4.
No.
Oh.
If we give it a 3 out of 5,
Okay.
3 out of 5 apples.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Can we do this in poisoned apples?
Yes,
Can we
definitely.
be more basic?
You know what? No, it's like, I'll come up with something a little bit more concrete than that. But we'll go with like 3 poison apples right now, because this is a really lukewarm episode. Functionally,
Out of
it's
5.
fine. Out of 5. 3 out of 5. Functionally, it does what it's supposed to do. I only yelled at my screen like once. And I think that's whenever I first heard Storybrooke being mentioned.
I laughed out loud a couple of times, like with the Storybrooke, Maryland.
I know.
Or not Maryland, Maine.
Maine, yeah.
And when,
God, if there was a Storybrooke,
Yeah, when
Maryland, then
she's
I'll
like-
definitely go on a trip with you.
when she was like, we'll go to a place with no happy endings, Maine. And that made me laugh out loud.
Yeah, I kept thinking
Seeing
about
the
that.
dog made me really happy, but I'm functionally like a 5-year-old baby when it comes to dogs. I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, puppy! Robert Carlyle is good however you can get him. I don't like sexy lady detective lady. Sexy doctor lady. That's what I called her.
Doctor lady?
Yeah, she was from House.
Oh, are you talking about
Cameron?
Emma?
Yeah, Cameron.
Well, she's a Bond Bale person.
I dislike her.
Can we
I just-
can we call her Shitty Bond Girl?
I disliked her in House, and I dislike her in this.
I don't have too much of a problem with her. Like, as far as her acting goes, her character sucks.
Yeah.
I think that she's really trying to have as much fun as she can with the role. And I think that's where a lot of the agitation is like, you're enjoying this shitty role way too much. Like, you're a homewrecker.
I wasn't even getting that she was enjoying it. It's just, as far as this first episode goes, it seems like she's like, I need a paycheck. Those house residuals are not paying like they used to. I need to pay my mortgage this month.
Yeah. So a good 3 apples out of 5 is a fine enough place to start.
Yeah, I'm just making sure there's nothing. Oh, they do talk about Emma's. They are talking about that, or they did mention in this episode that Emma is Snow White and Prince Charming's daughter, and she was put in a wardrobe to return on her 28th birthday to break Regina's curse, which is to stop time and end all happy endings.
Which somehow translates to, we're going to live in a shitty town in Maine for the rest of our lives.
We're going to live in, actually, it's kind of a nice town. Like, I wouldn't mind
decent public school system.
It looks nice.
People are still able to have babies.
Yeah, and Snow White is the kid's teacher. She has a bird. Mm-hmm. I remember that scene with the birds, and I'm like, subtle movie. She's holding a subtle show.
That brings up a very interesting point, and I think I'll get into it a little bit more as time goes on, but, you know, this is an ABC production, as owned by Disney.
Yeah.
To their creative marketing genius / laziness, and it's definitely both. They were able to use a lot of their own imagery. Mm-hmm. That's why, what is it, Jennifer Goodwin, who is Snow White.
Yeah, it's like Jennifer. It's like
with a G. Yeah, why Jennifer Goodwin was able to be casted as such because she's a dead ringer for the animated Snow White.
Except for her ears.
Well, I mean, like, the rest of her face is fine.
I don't want to make fun of her, but she has there's something about her ears that whenever she has her hair pushed back, I'm like, what? Especially with the longer hair. Mm-hmm. I'm like, there is something up with your ears, honey, and it's just not cute. There's a lot of issues I have with the costume design and the special effects in this show, but I'm gonna get into that probably next time.
Yeah. And there's also a lot of the mouse is really rearing its ugly head in here that I will also get into next time. So, Amanda, thank you for finally joining me, you procrastinator.
Listen, I was busy getting married. What do you want from me?
I mean, I was busy helping you get married, so I don't really have an excuse either.
No, you don't.
I was your, was I your man of honor or your best maid?
My main bitch.
Main bitch. Bottom bitch.
Main bitch.
Main bitch. I like that. And I do want to thank Insensitive Network for hosting our podcast. You can check out ours on their website, along with a couple of other newer podcasts, like the Tinfoil Rabbit Hole at insensitivenetwork.com. You can also check out their flagship podcast, which is Totally Insensitive Podcast. And we're going to be tuning out here. So if you want to tag on to the second part, you know, it might not be the end.
It might not be happy.
But you're always welcome to this party. Thanks for tuning in.
Peace.